I am back with a new ride video. This one I did on my scooter, which you can see here. This is in my apartment and I keep them meticulously clean. You can see my Brompton in the background. This was just a better application. I was riding from Grand Central to Forest Hills, just under 10 miles, and I needed to do some shopping. I was going for an Easter dinner or supper, however you want to call it. I am at Grand Central here and crossing over to the east side to head up to the 59th Street Bridge. And so if I did this with the Brompton, the shopping part would have been a lot more difficult. The train itself would have been more difficult. I mean, the Brompton can do a lot of things, but it just doesn't work as well as a 10.5 pound ultra lightweight, I would say super hyper lightweight ride like the Xootr. And if you want to check it out, I have a link below. You can check out my shopping page and you can go to either Amazon or to the Xootr website to get more data on this thing. I have done several videos on kick scooters and I basically swear by them. It's not that I use them for everything. Obviously, if I go for a 40, 50, 60 mile weekend ride, I'm not going to take this thing. This is a bit limited as far as speed is concerned. I measured my speed average. With the Brompton, I typically average 10 to 12 miles an hour. Look at this jerk. He passes you and then he hits the brake into your nose. They do it all the time, and not just with a kick scooter. They do it with the bicycle and especially with the velomobile. Some people, they ride velomobiles and they can easily compete with the car going on the downhill at 50 or 60 miles an hour, and they still do this. Some big truck is going to cut you off and forces you to slow down. So in any case, this is best, I would say. Typically I use it for no more than a 5 mile distance. In this case it was more like a 9.5 mile distance, so a longer ride definitely. But I just could not resist the convenience of it. And you are seeing the actual speed here. So if I average 10 to 12 miles on the Brompton with the electric and everything, on this one I would say I average 4.5 to 5 miles an hour, riding very comfortably. It's literally hardly an effort to do this. You can see that the bike is much faster than I am. Is doing at least twice the speed that I am doing. But the advantage of something that's so light is not so much that you could not necessarily go faster, but that if there is just a slight downhill like this one, a very, very mild downhill, it just rides by itself. It has practically no weight and no rolling resistance, so it's almost like floating your way down to the bottom of the downhill. Uphill is not as easy, I admit that, and if it's a very steep uphill, I have to actually walk the scooter uphill, which I had to do here and there as I was getting up to the bridge. This is First Avenue, leaving the UN area and going up there. And here I am already past the bridge on Queens Boulevard. And the bridge, at first it's very steep uphill, so I had to walk up, but then it's very steep downhill. And I could speed up to 15-20 miles an hour. I'm not willing to do that. I'm not willing to do that without protection. In other words, full knee and shin bone and elbow and wrist protection and all of that. A full face helmet, like you see people riding their mono wheels. And in this segment I'm speeding up the footage, so this is actually twice the speed that I was actually doing. This is the maximum I could have done. Like I could have done 15, but the road surface is not so smooth, and even on smooth roads I'm really not crazy about going above 10 miles an hour That's the speed of a bicycle if you're really pushing it, and that's a road bike as well. It would be nice if I would have gone this far. It is actually possible to average almost like a bicycle speed. In fact, the friend who invited me for this dinner has several scooters, and his favorite one is, I believe, 12 inches. The Xootr has 8-inch wheels. That's what you see here, at double the speed, double the actual speed. And there are scooters and kick bikes. I mean, even full-sized kick bikes. You can get one with the 28-inch wheel, which I think is extreme. But if you have something like 12, 16, 14-inch wheels, those are much more secure when you take the downhill. So you can do downhills a lot more aggressively. But the downside is that they are not so easy to carry. And carrying is, and going in and out of stores and shopping is where the Xootr is really, really strong. Also on travel. In fact, I'm planning a trip, and typically if I take anything on a trip, especially foreign trip, that's going to be the Xootr. I have never taken the Brompton to the airport, and I don't recommend that you do. I know a lot of people fly with their Bromptons. I have met several of them whose bikes were damaged, and typically what gets damaged is the rear carrier or the triangle, because most people fold it and place it sideways somewhere, and the people who pack these bikes absolutely brutally smash them, even make an extra effort to smash your luggage as much as possible. So they would take it from the height of your head, and they would smash it down to the ground. And I have seen them do this at JFK, so I have never had trouble with the Xootr, but they have destroyed somebody's Xootr, the exact same scooter I have, because the person just popped it onto the top of the luggage, and that's not how you do it. When it comes time to packing, I will show you how I pack my scooter, but it is possible to use all of your linen, your t-shirt, your underwear, to really pad it up nicely, so that no matter what they do, it's never going to be bent, because there are several inches of soft fabric to protect it. This is still on Queens Boulevard. In fact, other than the bridge and a little bit of zigzagging in the sunny side, this was mostly a ride on Queens Boulevard. And it's not a beautiful ride. We have done several group rides, and in fact we have one coming up in a few weeks, where we have gone onto Queens Boulevard, but it's really just to reach out to Forest Hills, which is a really nice neighborhood where everybody likes to ride. But getting out that far obviously has its price. On the positive side, at least they have some isolation of the road. You can see these concrete blocks. So unfortunately they have these gasoline motorcycle guys who come on. I don't think it's legal and it should not be allowed, but the police could not care less. So it's ugly on Queens Boulevard, but you get plenty of protection from the cars because of all of these barriers that they have put in. And we didn't usually have any barriers, but eventually they put those in because there have been several accidents. There have been cars, in fact cars sometimes just think, especially late at night, that this is a regular car lane and they get onto it. I do have a punishment for drivers that do that, but I won't mention that here. So this is twice the speed that I actually did, but even the speed that I did do was adequate. I actually enjoyed the ride. This is not the smoothest of surfaces. It's kind of okay. I'd rather be on the Brompton with some bigger wheels than the 18-inch wheels of the Xootr. And then there are all these construction sites, so many projects going up, all these high-rise buildings and new shopping malls and everything. Manhattan is just becoming more and more expensive for people, so they are beginning to move out here and everywhere. So they are developing the slum. And of course that means new infrastructure as well, which is why this bike lane was initially created in the first place. And it's been around for a few years, but this whole area still needs a lot of work and a lot of trees. It's just so barren. So this was my ride. I rode all the way out to Forest Hills, and then I had to shop, and it was a big relief. Then I could do the shopping without having to fold anything. When you have a Brompton, okay, if you have enough training wheels and little wheels on it, then you can somehow manage, or you can fold it up and put it into a shopping cart, which you could do even with the Birdie. So very similar. The Birdie cannot be converted into a shopping cart. The Brompton can. And if you have a Molten that's separable, then you can just lock up one half outside and use the other half with a front bag attached and use that for shopping. That's even much lighter than a Brompton. Instead of a 25-pound Brompton, you would have a 12 or 13, 14-pound element to work with. And here you can see that I can just jump onto the sidewalk. Nobody complains. I have never had a ticket. Nobody really even pays attention. That is that versatility, the ease of moving from one environment to the other, that's really appealing to me about the Xootr. There's really nothing else with this level of versatility. So even if the speeds are definitely lower than a normal bicycle, even than a Brompton, then even then in many cases I just end up using the Xootr a whole lot more. For example, when it comes to shopping locally where I live, I always take the Xootr. I never even bother with the Brompton. Not to mention the ability to carry it because it's so light. So I now live on the 4th floor in a walk-up. For the first time in my life, I don't have an elevator, so I have to actually walk whatever I have. I typically will carry the Brompton once a week for a long weekend ride and nothing more. And the Xootr is used for everything else. I use that for shopping, even for some minor explorations. Obviously not a 50-mile ride, but I can do 10 miles, sometimes even 15 miles out, and that's a lot. I mean, that's the whole day of coming and going. So this is what ascension looks like. You really have to push it, and that's why the footage is so jagged, because I actually have to push the bike up. It's definitely not as good as downhill. I definitely do prefer the downhill, but you know, I can manage. And here I'm going to show you what it looks like to shop with it. This is the actual speed. No need to fold anything. Nobody pays any attention. You can see nobody lifts an eyebrow, because the Xootr is really not any bigger than that shopping cart that you see. In fact, it's probably narrower, maybe a tiny bit longer, but narrower. And I go all over the place. And if I'm in a bigger supermarket, then I even ride it indoors a little bit. I have had some warnings, not from the customers, the shoppers, but from some of the staff when I was like riding really fast, because it's kind of fun. And this is just a jammed up tiny store, but there are big supermarkets, especially in the suburbs, where you have something like a quarter-mile distance and you can easily ride there. I also ride at airports and bus terminals and train stations like Grand Central itself. Grand Central is just such a huge place. It's really a blessing to have a Xootr. And you can see I've gone all around the store and I'm on the way out and nobody's paying attention. And this is the exit. I'm out. And here I'm back on the sidewalk. This is again a sped up footage. I did not move this fast. This is about twice the speed that I was actually doing. And sometimes people just take up the whole sidewalk so I cannot pass. But I am really faster. So scooting is roughly, it's going to give you twice the speed of walking. The average pedestrian walks at 2.5 miles an hour, or averages 2.5 miles an hour. That means they probably walk maybe at 3 or 3.5, but they have to stop at intersections and stop red light and so on. And so you do double the speed of walking. Plus, when you're shopping around, it's just so much more convenient to place 10-20 pounds of groceries or whatever it is you're carrying onto the handlebars rather than to have to carry it. Sometime during the winter time I would just walk to the grocery store, but I'm totally exhausted having to carry all that stuff because I have the strength to carry it, but it's just so annoying and you break a sweat and all that. Like these people carrying all these bags. It's just so much easier to put everything onto the handlebar, which can easily handle a lot more than 20 pounds. I don't think I ever put more than 20 pounds onto my handlebar, but I could handle it if I wanted to, definitely. I must say downtown Forest Hills is horrendously overcrowded and busy, and ideally they should just remove car traffic from the street. I mean, this is almost like Midtown Manhattan, and people open the door in your face everywhere. There's really no benefit to allowing all of these cars. I'm not against having a car, but I'm against people using the car for absolutely everything. They use the cars to travel 1.5 miles to pick up a bag of groceries or some fruit, and that's what they are doing. These trucks, totally unnecessary. Ideally, people should have, especially if you have a car, you should have a little scooter like this. The Xootr is very, very light, great for up to 5 miles away, and gives you some exercise as well. Or you can get something electric that's relatively compact. Then the weight might go up to 25 pounds, which is the same weight that you would have with a Brompton or with a Birdie. But you would have electric support, so you could go a lot farther. You could use an electric to go 10-15 miles away and come back on the same charge and carry all that stuff. So that is something to think about, and people should really think about what they use to get around. They will say, oh, a scooter is going to cost some extra money to buy, but that money is really just a deposit, because once you bought it, you are saving on the maintenance and the insurance and fuel of the car, especially the fuel and the maintenance. Maybe not the insurance, because that would be the same, but other than that, anything you buy to lighten the load on the car is going to increase the life of the car and save you money, so that the scooter is eventually going to pay for itself. I'm ending the video with this simple shot because this shows clearly how easy it is to travel anywhere on public transportation with a scooter, with a Xootr specifically. You don't even need to fold it. Most of the time I don't even bother folding it. The bags I put on the seat next to me, and that's it. It's really simple and easy way to do. Again, you can click below and check out the Xootr for yourself. There are also countless of electric options if you need a longer range, and I'll see you in the next video.